Hello and welcome to Dreams of Wings, and welcome here to Valbrembo in Italy, a beautiful location for what I know is going to be a beautiful flight in an aeroplane that I am so excited to be able to show to you. And a huge thank you to A2A Simulations for giving me the opportunity to fly their beautiful new Piper Comanche 250 that has just been released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. We've been waiting for this one. Those of us that have flown A2A before, we have been waiting to see what A2A can bring to this new simulator. And spoiler alert, it doesn't disappoint. It's absolutely stunning, as you are going to see. So for those of you that don't necessarily know A2A, haven't come across it before, there's a whole load of new flight simmers out there who are new to flight sim, really because of the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator. The A2A difference really comes down to something called Accu-sim. And now in this case, it's Accu-sim version 2, if you like, for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I guarantee you, if you've not experienced it, you're going to be blown away by it. It's a way of giving us simmers an aircraft that really does feel truly alive, both in terms of how it flies, but also how it reacts to how you operate it. It's persistent. It's truly an aircraft you feel you own, because as you fly it, as you operate it, the way you leave it after a flight and you close down the sim, it's going to be there when you come back to it the next time. You really do feel you own this aircraft. Even down to the fact that each cylinder in the engine is simulated and you can hear it, you can actually see it, which we're going to come on to when something isn't quite right. The viscosity of oil, even the quality of the oil after it's been used for some hours is simulated. It's an incredible level of detail, and it's what's helped to make A2A such a well-loved and respected developer in the flight sim world. They make flight simulators for the United States Air Force and for various other government, military and commercial organizations. And it's just great that we as home flight simmers get to benefit from their expertise, and we're in very capable hands when we take up one of their creations. So this is a 1959 Comanche. Scott, who owns A2A, actually owns a Comanche, and the livery is included with this pack. It's got a beautiful vintage feel, but at the same time it's got some modern touches to it. You can incorporate GPS. It's got the EDM engine management unit in there, which is a difference to the old P3D version or the FSX version, if you had that as well. I love this combination of old and new aviation. I like flying a classic GA aeroplane, but I also like having a couple of modern gadgets in there as well. And on the day where I don't want a GPS in there, I can just swap it out. Something also to say about the persistency is it's by livery. So you can own more than one Comanche. You could have a livery for, say, your VA, or you could have a livery also for your own flying, and those two aeroplanes will behave differently based on how you treat them and the hours that you've put into them. It is just stunning, and I think, as you can see from the footage that I'm showing you now, the level of detail in the artwork, absolute hats off to the A2A team for the amount of love and care and attention they have put into the artwork and the textures. It's just stunning. And it's all this kind of thing that helps to bring the aeroplane alive and make it feel like our aeroplane. Anyway, let's take a further look. Well, here we are inside the cockpit, and what a gorgeous place this is to be. Just look at the detail. The wear on the rudder pedals there, the little nicks out of the paintwork on the instrument panel. It's little details like that that make this so immersive. Scott's plane which, as I said, is included in the livery pack, has a different cover interior, and if I remember, I'll put a little screenshot of that up now so that you can see what that looks like. Really, really is wonderful. I do like the cockpit of this aeroplane, and this is it really in its kind of blank canvas initial state without a GPS, but we will come on to that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous, really is. So let's bring up the tablet and let's talk through that. There really is so much to talk about here. It's just amazing. So this is your front page. This is for this aircraft, GDRMS. If we go into flight info, we have a initial panel which is giving us some information about our environment, what the QNH is, the viz, temperature, precipitation, what the wind is doing, what the crosswind component of the wind is. Some really useful bits and pieces there. And then on the aircraft tab here, we have got some information on critical speeds and power settings, which is useful to have. The old Accu-sim in P3D and FSX had something very similar, and it's just a really easy way to have a quick reference just to make sure that you've got the right power settings set up. It's telling us what our current endurance is with our fuel loadout. It's telling us what our true airspeed is. Well, that's just because we've got a bit of a wind blowing over us at the moment. We're not actually moving anywhere, which is reflected in the ground speed here being 0. And it's giving us a range of 763 statute miles at the moment. We then come on to checklists, and as always with A2A, we've got some really in-depth checklists for every conceivable bit of the flight, and we will be using those. And also we have got the emergency checklist as well. You can see just how much information is included in here, and that's another hallmark of A2A. They don't leave anything out. Let's come over onto the controls tab, and this is where it gets a little bit more detailed. So as I said, this is the kind of vanilla no GPS setup. With the A2A Comanche, we also have the GNS 430, the GNS 530, and then get that out of the way. You can also have a loadout with both. You can also have the PMS GTN 750, or like I've got, you can have the TDS GTN 750 XI, and that's actually what I'm going to use today. It's the GPS I tend to use most of the time in all the various aircraft I fly, including the Airbus H145 helicopter. And it's just a lovely GPS unit using the Garmin trainer. So anyway, we've got that bit set up. You can then also see a lot of these controls here are actually duplicated, but it's just an easy way of doing it. So things like parking brake, well, in fact, all of this, parking brake, wheel chocks, tie downs, control lock, pitot cover, these are all things that you can do elsewhere, but if you wanted to, you could just do it from the panel here if you don't want to go through the faff of doing the outside checks. Although, don't forget, this is Accu-sim, so you might want to do that. But anyway, that gives you an easy way of doing that. You can also open and close the baggage door from here. Headphones we're going to talk about. That's a nice cool little feature, and you can change the vents as well in the defroster. We've also got jacks. I'm going to come on to jacks a little bit and explain what that one is about. We have also got engine heater. So let me quickly show you that from the outside. For example, if it was a really cold day, we have got the option to preheat the engine. And as you can see there, we have a wire running under the cowling now, and it's heating our engine up. Right, so we certainly don't need that today, so we can have the engine heater off. Electric is very simple to understand. You can just, again, all these are duplicated, but you can change all these here. We can have the battery on, do the mags, all that sort of thing. Lights, again, a lot of these are duplicated, and we will have a look at, actually, let's do that now. Let's have a look at what the lighting is like on this aeroplane, because it is rather beautiful. So what I'm going to do is we will quickly flick the master on. And then I'm going to, with the magic of flow, we are going to change to nighttime. I do love that feature in Flow. It's really cool. Okay, so here we are in the dark. I'm just going to put the flashlight on. So what have we got? Let's have a look at the interior lights first. So up here we have the dome light. I can turn the flashlight off now because we can see what's going on. We also have the, see, spoke too soon. Where is it? There it is. We have got a red light, and we can turn that off there to see what that looks like. So that's your night lighting. Look at the glow of the gear green there reflecting off the bits and bobs. Really do love that. What we also have, let's just turn that off. Well, there's also a light in the back as well for the rear passengers. We've also got the spotlight here. So I'm going to turn off the flashlight, and then I'm going to activate that from here. So let's have you on, and we'll turn up the intensity. Now I can, if I right click on it, I can turn that to red. And if I right click on it again, I can turn it to white. And then I can move it around by grabbing it, but I can also move it around by touching this here. So it's a little bit easy. If you imagine sitting in the cockpit and then reaching behind you, grabbing the light and moving it while you're looking at the instrument panel, then you can, it's easy to see what you're pointing it at, but just look at how that moves around and how it's reflected. Love that detail. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, let's turn that off and let's have a look at the outside. So I'm going to use the panel here because it's dark and I can't see the switches now. So let's just have everything on, and then we can have a look at the outside. Lighting in this sim is definitely quite spectacular, and A2A made full use of it. You can see the nav light just reflecting off the tip tank there, and as we move around, the really crisp landing lights that are also reflecting off the tip tanks on the inside. That looks absolutely gorgeous. We've got a nice bright white strobe underneath, and as we move around, you'll again see the green nav light just reflecting off the tip tank there. Beautiful. As we come around the back here, I am just going to come in a bit closer so you can see that beacon light on the top, because the attention to detail is quite stunning with it. There you go. Now that is attention to detail. It's rotating, and the individual bulbs are modelled as well. And just look how it's reflecting off the aerials and the tail fin there. Really is quite beautiful. Right, so that's the lighting. Let's come back to the daytime again and switch everything off. So strobe light off, all that. Nav instruments, that's fine. Battery I'm going to turn off from here as well. And let's get back to daytime. There we go. That's about right. Cool. Okay. Right. Okay. Something else we have here is the tow bar. Now for this, I need to take the, actually no, remind me, we'll do that once we have removed the chocks and all that sort of thing. I do want to show you how that works, but at the moment we've got the chocks on, so that's going to make it a little bit difficult, but remind me I need to do that. Autopilot, we can change the different modes here. We'll talk about the autopilot when we're in the air. Auto start and cold and dark. I'm sure you know what those are. You've seen those before, but it's nice to have that feature here. We've got some further options here. We can simulate gyro drift, cockpit persistence. What's that? That basically means if you leave switches on, if you leave the fuel valves open, all that sort of thing, when you close down the sim and you come back to it the next day, those switches are going to be in exactly the same place. It's just a way of making it more realistic, and it also means, or rather demonstrates, why doing your checks are important, because you might have something on you don't want to have on. Persistence by livery. This is the really cool feature that I mentioned before, basically meaning that if you have that on, then the aircraft that I'm flying now will age differently to, say, for example, if I took up Scott's Comanche. It just, again, gives you realism and gives you access to more than one aircraft, really. Gyro sound, we've got that on. Visible passengers, I'll show you that because it's pretty cool. Realistic parking brake. we have that on. I mean, that's just really meaning that you have to press the pedals on and also pull the lever at the same time for that to work. And then we've got different volumes: tablet volume, warnings volume, master volume. That's pretty self-explanatory. If we go into advanced options, if I can just get the click spot right there, we can change to 8.33 kilohertz com radios, three-way gear switch. You can see down here that we do have the gear switch in the Comanche is three-way. So you've got up, off, down. Now, normally you would, off would be the position when you'd finished maneuvering, as it were. So if you were flying, you would select gear up once it was safe to do so, and then you'd put it into the off position, for example. Now, I've got a honeycomb Bravo, which means that my gear switch is only a 2-position switch. So I have that switched off, which means that I get a nice easy cycle on here that works with my hardware. It's not realistic to the Comanche the way I've got it set up, but it just makes it a bit easier. In the old P3D and FSX, you couldn't necessarily do that. And I know I'm not the only one that thought they'd got the gear down when actually they'd gone from the up to the off position and got a shock when they landed. I know I'm not the only one. And I've done it more than once, which is pretty bad, let's face it. But there you go. Original prop lever, if you look down, let's get rid of the bungee cord actually. If you look down here, you can have the option of having a more contemporary prop lever. I just like the old one, simple as that. This is the one that came with the P3D and FSX version. I just like it. You can change rudder trim speed, elevator trim speed, and elevator force. That just gives you a little bit more control. It might be down to what hardware you're using, but it gives you a little bit of control to edit that. I've just kept that as default really for the time being. Turbulence, you can set an option for VR or for flat screen, which is a nice feature to have. You can change turbulence strength. Now, this is how the aircraft reacts to the turbulence. I have left it at default, but again, it's testament to the depth that A2A go into that they have that as a feature on their Accu-sim model. Wear rate and failure rate does what it says on the tin. I've got it set to normal. If you were a steely-eyed daredevil and you're just desperate for things to drop off and go wrong, then you could change that and you could see what happens. Again, nice that we have the option to change that if we want to. Fuel payload. Now, this is the kind of thing that you're probably more used to. I would suggest that this is the way to do it. Don't use the Microsoft Flight Simulator fuel and payload screen. I don't even know if that's going to work with this, but you don't need to use that. Use this. And this is really just giving you all your weights. It's giving you your capacities in terms of your fuel, and also giving you your specific loadings. And then down here you can change what your fuel loadout is. Now I am going to just set medium. We're not going anywhere particularly far, but you can see we've got a little bit in the tip tanks just as a reserve, and then we've pretty much got full left and right main tanks. Now, that we will come on to once we power up the update digital engine monitor. Payload. This is where we can start adding our passengers and our baggage. You can also add baggage during the walkaround, which I will show you, and we will load a bag live doing it that way. But just to show you with passengers, here we go. We can add our co-pilot, which is the kind of stock Asobo co-pilot. But if I then click on these, we have got A2A animated passengers. Listen, guys, don't look so worried. You are in the hands of a professional. They believe that. They believe anything. I am going to leave those there. We are going to fly with passengers. They look thrilled. Just for the hell of it, it's worth doing it. And it's practice for me as well, to be honest. I'm by no means at all an expert on this aeroplane. It's a simple, no, it's an easy aeroplane to fly, but it's not so easy to fly it well, especially landing. And that's what makes it interesting. So I want to get used to, because I'm going to be using this in my VA flying, I want to get used to having passengers in there as well. I'm not going to have a co-pilot because I want the visibility for you so that you can look out and see the scenery as well. And then, as I say, baggage, we talked about that. Here we've just got a visualization of the C of G as well, just to help us understand that. Now we move on to maintenance. I love this bit. So maintenance is what us veterans of A2A love. It's what is one of the things that makes A2A A2A. And this is where we can tinker with the aeroplane, we can run repairs, we can check how the aircraft is or the state of the aircraft. And don't forget, as I said, because it's persistent, over time it will degrade. And also if you bend it, break it, whatever, this is where you're going to have to come to actually fix it. So let's do a quick inspection. So we're in airframe page, inspect, everything's good. We've got everything green. If it's amber, it means you need to, it's kind of drawing your attention to it. If it's red, it's bust. You've got to do something about it. And I'll show you a bit more about that in a second. Down here, we can add tip tanks. Tip tanks have gone. Put our tip tanks back. I always fly with the tip tanks. I just think they look great. I really do. Apart from the fact that it gives you a bit of a fuel reserve, there's just something very aesthetically pleasing about them. Anyway, so we've got the tip tanks in. Now, also down here, we then have various other options, which are really all about, apart from the soundproofing, obviously, which are really about increasing the aerodynamic efficiency of the aeroplane and stability. So we've got everything added, but let me show you the kind of thing I'm looking at. So, for example, if I remove the, where is it? Elevator tips, which is the stabilator tips, I'm going to take those out, and I'm going to take out the wing root fairings. There we go. So let's have a quick look at the outside. So two things to look at here, really. We've got this 90-degree angle between the wing root and the fuselage side. Very kind of sharp edge there. And then if we just zoom over here, you can see that we've just got a very kind of blunt edge here at the end of the stabilator. Now, if we pop back in and we put those two things back in on the aeroplane, again, you can see they appeared there. And then if I click that, you can see the wing root fairings appear there. Now, if we go outside, you can see not only have we got these rather snazzy stabilator tips now, but also if we come back down here, we have got a nice little wing root fairing here, which now gives us a slightly more aerodynamic, slippy surface for the air to flow over. So that's the kind of thing that those are doing. I've got all of it, and I've also got the soundproofing as well. Soundproofing is obvious. It's just, you know, we've just got some padding in the aeroplane just to cut down some of the outside noise. Now, what have we also got here? We have got propellers. So let's switch to the Macaulay. Right, okay, so that's what the Macaulay looks like. That is an aluminium, or if you are in the US, an aluminum. I don't know why we say it differently, but there you go. Potato, potato, and all that. That's the original propeller that Scott had on his aeroplane. And then he moved over to the MT Scimitar. So let's have a look at that. Pop inside. Pop on the MT. There you go. That's what that looks like. So that is a wood composite propeller that Scott has on his Comanche right now. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it because I would highly suggest you look at the A2A videos that Scott's going to be doing, the tutorials. He's going to cover all this kind of stuff in depth, and let's face it, he flies the real thing. I don't, so listen to him. But essentially with this propeller, you get a very small performance boost, with the Macaulay, it can go a little bit flatter, so you get more RPM at static full power. But I'm going to leave that to him to explain in more detail. But this is the propeller that I'm running at the moment. Right, so what else can we do? This section down here, we can overhaul the airframe. Now, if anything was broken, then I could, instead of just doing the individual bits and bobs, I could also overhaul the airframe. Now, one of the things that they have done is that if you overhaul the airframe, and I'm going to do it now, look at this up here, the hours won't change. And the reason for that is because you kind of want to know the age of the airframe. You don't want the airframe age in hours to 0 here after you've done repairs. If we come onto the engine, which I will do, that works slightly differently. But also here you've got the option to overhaul all, which is really just fixing every single thing on there without faffing about going through different, different pages. Something else we can do here is we can select whether we want brand new, used or auction. So something I'm going to do now is we will move to used, and it's going to change the persistence of my aeroplane, but I'm happy to do that. And we now have used, so we can see the hours have changed here. We've got 1,816 hours. So this aeroplane is going to behave differently to what we've had before, or what I've been flying before. If I, for example, quickly come onto engine, now I'll talk about this now because it's a good opportunity. Here, like the airframe, if I click on inspect, you can see here we've got some ambers here. Now, that means that we could fly if we wanted to, but really it's kind of saying, listen, have a look at these. There are some bits and pieces that need attention. So just to demonstrate that, click on crankshaft. It's going to tell you what's wrong with it, which is great. It's a good way of learning how the airplane works as well. We can fix that and it's gone green. Simple. We can change the oil grade. We can check the oil level. We can change the oil level, but we'll come on to that. What else can we do? Spark plugs, we can change those from massive to fine wire, and we can clean the spark plugs because you can foul them. If you're running on the ground too rich, you can foul the plugs, which is not a good idea. But you can also overhaul the engine, or we have the magic overhaul all button. Now, coming back to this down at the bottom here, let's go back to airframe. We can go to auction. Auction is, again, if you're the kind of person that wants to advance your wear and tear rate, auction is for you. Auction is literally, you've gone to an auction, you bought an airplane. What state have you bought it in? Let's have a look. Let's click on auction. What have we got? So let's inspect. Okay, well, on the face of it, that's not too bad. We've got a low voltage battery, which is okay. So we can fix that. The battery could use a charge, either by a charger or by letting the engine run for an hour or so. So anyway, we'll fix that. We'll assume that we've charged it. So yeah, that's not too bad for an auction. What have we got here? 2,090 hours on the airframe, and the engine 635 hours. Let's have a look at the engine and we'll inspect that. So again, our auction aeroplane, not too bad. When I've played with the auction thing before, I can assure you I've seen far worse. And that's the great thing about this. You're going to get a different result every time. When I last had a look at an auction aeroplane, I had a lot of red. There was a lot broken. Whoever had been flying it before was very naughty indeed. So yeah, this is all right. This is actually better than, in a better state than the used airplane that we had before. So yeah, quite happy with that. Anyway, I am going to fly my brand new airplane. So we're going to go back to new, and this is zeroed everything. So we literally now have a brand new airplane, but it still remembered all the extra bits and bobs that I had on before. So brand new, 0 hours, gorgeous new airplane. You can almost smell it, can't you? Engine analyzer and electrical system I'm going to talk about in the air. But this is a wonderful way of being able to monitor the state of your engine, because each cylinder is modeled in this. You can look at everything in detail, see how the engine is behaving, see what isn't working, what's working really well. And again, with the electrical system, it's going to, you can check the circuit breakers here. I have noticed that some of the circuit breakers do pop out every now and again, so you have to pay attention to that. But you can see the load on the battery, you can see how the alternator's working. We'll have a look at that in the air. But again, this is all about making you feel that you own an aeroplane and that you're flying a living, breathing aeroplane. Love it, love it, love it. Right, okay, have I covered everything that I wanted to cover there? We've talked about all those bits and bobs. I'm going to talk a bit more about those in the future. Just have a quick look at the engine. It's brand new. We would expect it to be good. And okay, that's great. Happy with that. Happy with that. Happy in the back. Yep, they're happy in the back. Right. Okay. Walkaround. This is a cracking little feature. So I'm going to quickly just get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is just do a couple of things. I'm going to pop the master switch on. I'm going to dump the flaps. These are mechanical flaps, so it's instant. You're not waiting for a motor to wind them down. Just checking that the parking brake is on. I'm going to pop the pitot heat on, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we get round to the relevant position. I know a lot of you probably already know what that's about, but just let that heat up a little bit. And something I'm also going to do, actually, because we can have a quick check, is we're going to let's put all the lights on so that we can have a look at those as we walk around as well. So we're going to do a full check of everything. Right, let's move to the first position. So over here, we can see that you can see the flashing there from the strobe light. It'll tell you down here what it is that you're looking at. So we're going to grab the flap, nice and solid, nothing loose there. Move over to the aileron, grab that. That's moving nicely. Nothing feels broken. Let's move over to the wingtip. So this is where this feels really tactile, especially with head tracking. As you can see, I'm here. This is almost like kind of flat screen VR, really. But we can have a look in here. Let's undo that. Let's undo the cap. Have a look inside, lean over, and you can just see there is a bit of fuel in the bottom. We know from before that there's not a huge amount in there, so that matches. That's absolutely fine. Let's close that. Oh, look at that. I just realised. I don't know if that's dim light or just because I didn't switch it on. The nav light, you just have to turn that. Hear it click. There we go. So let's go back round there. Now nav light is on, looking great. And that's the next thing to check, is that you check the nav light. And now we are looking at the, we're going to drain some fuel from the tip tank. Lovely, lovely blue fuel. There's no water in that. That's good. And we can empty that. Whoa, yeah, landing light's working. That's me blinded for the next 5 seconds. We want to remove our tie downs and just check everything's looking fine under there, which it is. Let's have a look in the fuel tank. That's nice and full. We can see that. So we can close that all up now. And again, with head tracking, you can just see it just adds that extra realism because you can move your head around a little bit. And we have a look at the wheel. Is the wheel looking fine? It certainly is. Let's remove the chock. And again, we can just have another look and see that that strobe is working very nicely indeed. And we are going to drain some fuel from the sump. Now, let me show you something. Nothing working. It's not working because we haven't turned the fuel cocks on. So let's do that. And then let's jump back outside again to the relevant position. Undo the hatch. And there we go. And the fuel in the sump. No contamination. Lovely jubbly. Add a bit of ice. And as you walk around, you can have a nice little fuel cocktail. Looking over here, there's nothing blocking the vents here, and the propeller is looking in good condition. No nicks, no bumps, no bends. Coming around here, we're going to check the oil. Colour looks great. It's just over 9. If we were going down to 6, we'd probably put a little bit more in there. Don't really want to go a huge amount over 9, but as you can see, the colour of the oil is nice, and we know that we don't need to change it, which is what we'd expect because it's a brand new aeroplane. If we were inspecting an auction aeroplane with a lot of hours on it and they hadn't changed the oil, you'd expect that to be dark. And again, a nice little feature that helps you feel that you own the aeroplane as time goes on. That oil will change colour and change levels, so you do need to check on that. Let's have a look around here and we'll check the fuel in the left wing. Very nice. That's all looking good. Tanks are full, as we would expect. Close that up and get the click spot. Bob underneath. Tyres looking good. Remove the chock. Nice. Coming over here, we will remove the tie down and we will also remove the pitot cover. Now at this point, this isn't modelled at the moment, but I think it's probably something that A2A are going to do. If you're used to P3D and FSX versions, you know that you can click on that, or you can click on a spot on the old walk-around checklist and it will turn red just to indicate that the pitot heat is working. That's not modelled at the moment, but I'm sure it's something that A2A will bring in. And blinded again by that. That's working an absolute treat. Let's have a check of the tip tank. Yeah, got some fuel in there. That's nice. And our nav light there is working. Going underneath, we will check the fuel there. That's looking good. No contaminants. Lovely jubbly. Pop round to the back. Elevator's moving nicely. And the flap is nice and firm. Check the static. That's good. Let's grab hold of the stabilator and give that a wobble. Yes, nice and steady there. Remove that tie down because we don't want that. Check the static port on this side. That's looking good. And at this point, we are going to unload, or rather load. What should we take? Let's take that. That could you could get a few sub rolls in there, maybe a couple of cans of Coke or something. Happy to take that. But you could load all these on, and that will be reflected in the weight. Okay, so that is now walk around complete. Let's turn everything off, save our battery a little bit, and actually let's just have a quick look, just because I'm curious more than anything, and see. So you can see here we've still got the battery on, and you can see that there is some drain there. Let's turn all the lights on. And you can see that that's gone up ever so slightly as it's using power. There we go. So let's turn that back off. Okay. And turn the master switch off just while we're talking. So that gives you an idea of the walk around. Again, it's things like this. If you don't do the walk around, you will have a nasty shock. If you're a veteran of A2A, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There will be a day if you never do a walk around where you'll take off and suddenly the aircraft will be lurching to the left because you've got a bust left flap or something like that. So it's worth doing that and having a look around. Okay. I think it's time to start her up. Right, let's start by closing the door. And we'll just latch that nicely there. Okay, let's pull up the EFB and let's go to pre-flight checklist or before engine start. So we've done the pre-flight. That's all sorted out. Passengers, you lot, stay still. Don't move. If you've got your belts on, stick your belts on. Come on, amateurs. Controls locks removed. I've done that. The parking brake is set. Let's just double check that we've got that. So I have a switch on my Bravo, which I'm using there. So that's done. Gear switch is down here and also physically on my controller. Flaps are up. Radios all off. Yep, that's good. Autopilot master is off. Avionics master is off. All electrical switches are off, 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 off. There we go. Just make sure that one's off as well. Circuit breakers in. All circuit breakers are in. Looking good there. And now we stick the rotating beacon on. We haven't got power on yet, but we're going to stick the rotating beacon on now, and then that will come to life when the power comes on. Okay, so that's before engine start. Engine start checklist, fuel selector, desired tank. So what I'm going to do is you can have both tanks on at the same time. They burn at slightly different rates potentially, and also, you know, if one of the tanks is a bit dodgy, then you're going to start sucking all that crud in, or if it runs empty, you're going to suck air in. So what a lot of Comanche pilots do, and if you are a real-world pilot and you have experience of this configuration, I'd love to know what you do. But from what I can see, a lot of them will tend to just use the one tank. So we'll start off with the left-hand tank. There we go. So that is set. Where do we get to? Fuel selected desired tank. Mixture is going to be rich. Throttle cracked. Just a wee bit there. And prop fully forward. Get the right lever. There we go. That's fully forward now. Right, master carpet off. There we go. Carpet is off. Just double checking that just to be sure. Master switch on. Now we can hear that rotating beacon going round. Fuel pump on. Fuel pressure, we want to check that just to make sure that that's working. So let's have a look down here. And that needle is starting to rise. There we go. That's good. We've got good fuel pressure. Happy with that. Fuel pump, we can now switch off. Primer, 1 to 5 strokes. It's not a particularly cold day and it's not a warm engine. So I'm just going to give it 4 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to allow you to hear the sounds as well, because the sounds in this really are, you know, quite exquisite, really. Right, mags to both. Prop area clear. Clear prop. And let's start this beast up. There we go. Nice start. Need to run certainly above 800 RPM to avoid any fouling, so we'll just run it down to 1000 RPM. Above 1200 RPM, and it will be using the generator, but we're not using much electrical power at the moment. I will need to, we'll probably want to increase that a little bit, and I'm just going to lean a little bit as we're on the ground so that we don't, that will help not to foul the plugs. T's and P's and everything are looking fine. Happy with that, and we can allow that to heat up. Daylight today, probably looking at about 2 minutes really for the engine to warm up to get to a nice temperature, and that's plenty of time with what we're going to look at now. So let's now have the avionics on. There we go. The engine management display here is coming to life, and the good old GTN XI. What I'm going to quickly do actually is load the flight plan. Just using a loose flight plan really.
TOS, system test OK.
How rude. Just using a loose flight plan just to give us a chance to play with a few features. We're not going particularly far, but we're going to go over to Lake Como and just have a look at some of the beautiful scenery. Okay, let's activate that. There we go, so that's all nicely set up. Right, how are we all looking here? Yeah, T's and P's are still good. Just looking at the EDM here, can come over back to the fuel payload. Now, what it's asking us here now is, have you filled the tanks up, which we haven't. So I'm going to exit that. And then if I come over to update digital engine monitor, this is a quick and easy way of loading our configuration to here. There is another way that you can do it. You can do it manually, but I'm just going to quickly update there so that we've got the correct figures in here. And you can see now on the engine display management device here that it is cycling through different pieces of information. What we can do is select a piece of information that we just particularly want it to look at by using the steps. So we could look at our gallons per hour, for example. But if you want it to cycle through, you just go back, press that button, and then it's going to cycle through nicely all the different bits of information it's going to give us. But again, it's a lot of this is just kind of standard. If you're used to flying this kind of aeroplane, you'll know what a lot of this kind of thing is here. We've got the oil pressure, we've got gallons per hour, we've got fuel remaining, we've got our hours and minutes remaining, and we've got the battery state that we have available. I should say the larger figure here and the blue line is the EGT, and the smaller figure is the CHT. So that gives you an idea of what's happening there. We're going to use that to lean, but we'll do that once we get into the air later on. Quick look around, just checking our T's and P's, and everything is looking tickety-boo there. All temperatures risen nicely. So this Accu-sim will simulate the state of the oil and the viscosity of the oil depending on the temperature. So you do need to make sure you do proper warm-ups and all that kind of stuff. Right, let's have the nav lights on. I'm not going to put anything else on at this stage. Let's close the little storm window. See how the sound changed there. Nice little details. Going to show you something else as well. So you remember when we came to here, and there's so much about this that I need to keep reminding myself. We had the headphones. So let's plug the headphones in. See how it got quieter? And let's activate the noise cancelling. And it gets even quieter. How cool is that? There you go. I love that. I'm going to have that off for the time being because I want you to hear everything. I want you to hear the engine noise. Just realised I hadn't shown you what the jacks do. So, oh, to hell with it. Let's close everything down. Just for fun. I'm going to leave all those on. Everything else is set. Let's put the aircraft on jacks. You see we rose up then. And now you can see the aircraft is indeed on jacks, so we'd be using that for doing maintenance and for checking underneath and all that kind of good stuff. Nice little feature that they've simulated, and the detail of the jacks and that drum at the back is quite superb. Right, let's have avionics off. Should have done that before I shut the engine down, you naughty boy. Right, something else I want to show you is the tow bar. Right, first things first, I need to remove the parking brake, so let's do that. Parking brake now is off. We've got rid of the chocks and everything, as I said. So let's click on the tow bar. And now, because I've got head tracking, it's got that nice little VR feel to it. But essentially what I'm doing now is using my yoke as the tow bar. So if I push the tow bar forward, or push the yoke forward, I can steer it using the yoke, as you can see, and then if I pull the yoke backwards or pull it towards me, as I would be with the tow bar, I can steer it around. So that's a nice little feature. Okay, right, let's stop this messing around. Right, parking brake on, let's go back and let's have we'll give it a little bit of prime. Won't need too much considering what we just did. And we'll have mags on, and Open that again. Clear prop. I'm just going to turn that off. I missed something, but I don't know if you could hear those sounds. You could almost hear each piston. You could hear the air pressure in there. I don't know if you could hear that, but that was actually quite stunning. Now, what I'd forgotten to do, of course, was enriching the mixture because I still had it lean for ground ops. So I've done that now. Give it another couple of squirts. Don't want to go over the top. And let's start again. Each start is different, by the way. You're going to see different behavior. You're going to hear different things. This engine really is alive. It's so cool. And it's not going to want to start. So what have we done? This is where you have to start using your head and thinking about it. What have we done wrong? So let's have a look at the maintenance. Let's have a look at engine. Let's have a look at inspect, see if it's telling us anything. No, everything's good. Everything is looking okay there. So perhaps we haven't got enough fuel in there. So let's prime it a little bit more. In danger of over priming, but let's see. Okay, so at this stage I would strongly suspect that I've probably over primed, so I'm going to turn the mags off and we'll just run the starter and let that drain out a bit. There we go. Don't want to burn it out. Right. 1, 2, 3. Let's have the mags on. There we go. Nice healthy start straight away. Quick look down. T's and P's good. Happy with that. Everything's fine. She's recovered from my over priming, but that is a good example of how the aircraft is alive. I'm glad that happened because you can see exactly how the aircraft behaves there. So let's get the avionics back on. Let's get back to where we were before. We'll have the pitot heat on now. It's going to go through the same bits and pieces that we saw before. There we go. We're going to have to load the flight plan again. You can see we've got a warning here.
System test OK.
I'm going to raise the RPM just a little bit, just so we can get the generator to kick in. I have already leaned the engine a little bit there. Okay, catalogue, import. Where's our flight plan gone? There we go. Activate. Okay. Back. Right. Okay, so we're back where we wanted to be. I'm just going to do a quick check here of where we are. So our fuel load is 66 gallons. And what's it saying here? 65.8. So that's pretty good. Happy with that. If you want to check the fuel on the tip tanks, by the way, you use this little gizmo here. Just a word of warning, this does slightly overread, so you don't want any nasty surprises from that. Do you now? Right, let's close that. Okay. So back to checklists. Taxi. We're going to fly. So primer locked. Avionics master is on. Ammeter checked. Where have we gone? There it is. So that's doing very nicely. Now that we've kicked in the generator, if I lower the RPM, okay, not seeing any change in that. I think I was half expecting to see that change, but the generator is obviously still kicking in there. Right, so let's have a look here. Radios are on, we've done that. We're not going to be using ATC. Transponder is set to altimeter. Well, I'm just going to put that on. If I put that onto altitude reporting now, it will the GTN will automatically go back to standby, as you can see. Heading indicator now. What we have to be really careful of here is, of course, we do have the gyro drift, and this ain't always going to match that. So let's push that in, and then we're going to line that up now while we're here. Move it round. Losing my click spot because I'm looking at other things. There we go. How's that looking? There we go. That's about 245, and just a little bit more, 245. So that's nicely lined up now. Altimeter. So what have we got? QNH is 1017. 1017. Just as well I got my glasses on today. There we go. That's good. 1017, heading indicator we've done. Landing gear lamp is green. Something just to say is that once you have the nav lights on, if I turn the nav lights off, you can see that's gone to a bright green. If I turn the nav lights on, it goes to a darker green. That is actually on. Just so that you know. Parking brake released. Let's get to the switch on my panel. There we go. So that's released, and let's just check the brakes. That's good. Okay. So the run-up we'll do once we get to the end of the runway, but we're going to have to backtrack now along runway 02. So let's just do that. Quick look around. Nothing's in the way. The ground handling on this is just absolutely gorgeous. I'm just going to move the tablet out of the way so we can have a proper look. Where is my mouse gone? We're just about to enter the active, so let's have all the lights on, then no one can complain. I haven't got multiplayer or anything on, so there's no other aircraft, but always worth having a quick look just in habit. But yeah, the ground handling on this is gorgeous. If you know a lot of the funny traits that we see in some of the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the ground handling in this feels great. It doesn't have that kind of strange GTA kind of jittery, overly sensitive steering. It's got a nice realistic physics kind of feel to it. You hear those bumps? You just hear the aircraft rolling along, and every now and again a little bump. Gorgeous sounds. Quick look down just to check that everything's looking okay. I'm happy with everything there. So what we're going to do is take off, fly over to Lake Como, have a look at the scenery, and then also just quickly look through some of the different things that this aeroplane has had, especially if you have flown the FSX or P3D versions. Just a quick look at how you can use the EDM there to do the leaning for you. You can still do it the old school way. Absolutely no problem there, but this is just a little feature that's been added for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And also we'll have a quick look at the autopilot as well, because the autopilot is an old school autopilot, not quite perhaps what you're used to if you've been using some of the modern avionics, but nonetheless it works, just not in quite the same way. Isn't it gorgeous here? I love Italy, absolutely adore Italy. The food, the scenery, the architecture, the people, lovely place. Okay, we will come round here. Not quite sure how wide this turning area is here, so we'll make best use of it. Now, wind is pretty much running down the runway, so I'm going to, again, because there's nothing around, I'm going to do the run-up check actually on the runway, pointing into wind. There we go, shy of the threshold. There we go. Right, let's get the checklist back up again. So, run up. So we're into wind. We are. Let's have the parking brake back on. Fuel quantity, check. Let's have a look at those. That's fine. I am on the left tank. I'm going to switch to the right tank now. That's the fullest tank. Because we've been burning a bit while we've been faffing around, or while I've been faffing around. You've been patiently listening. I've been doing all the waffling. Right, mixture. So we'll go fully rich now. Throttle 2000 RPM, and then we're going to look at the instruments, and we're going to check our mags, and we're going to cycle up prop. So let's go for 2000 RPM. Okay, T's and P's and everything are looking absolutely fine. Happy with that. Let's do a mag check. So 1, 2. That's good. Back to both. Back to left. Ooh, interesting. Left a little bit wobbly there. Hear that? Could that be mixture? No. Okay, let's have another look at that. So left mag running slightly differently to our right mag. Let's have a look at the right mag again. Right mag is lovely. Left mag, not so lovely. Let's use this opportunity to have a look here at the engine analyzer. So we can see what's going on here. Everything seems to be running relatively smoothly. This is a new one for me, so I've not tried this yet, so I'm interested to see. Let's switch to left mag. Okay, yeah, engine's not running quite so nicely. Let's go to right mag. Oh, right mag. Definitely smoother. Interesting behaviour. Okay. We're going to fly. We're daredevils, but that's interesting to see how we're seeing the different behaviour there. And again, a good reason to have a look at the, to do the checks. Right, where were we? Magnetos, we've had a look at that. Prop cycle 3 times. I'm just going to go back up there. When I do the third one, I just want to show you, where is it? There we go, watch the propeller there. Even shows you the picture of the propeller on the engine analyzer. So cool. Okay, so we've done that, happy with that, everything's cool. Right, carb heat, we'll do a quick check of that. Yeah, we can see the RPM drops a bit there. And the manifold pressure increased slightly. So that is working. Okay, so before takeoff, controls free and correct. Everything's working there. Rudder, nice. Rudder trim, we are not using anything, and that should be central there. The door is latched, that is good. Flaps, I'm not going to use flaps for this takeoff. We could do if it was a little bit shorter. Fuel selector I've got onto the right tank now, which is where I wanted it. Fuel pump we now switch on. Mixture fully rich, which it is. Prop fully forward when we do it. The carb heat is off. Engine gauges we're going to have a look at, and pitot heat is on. Everything's tickety-boo. All the lights are on. Right, let's go. Let's aviate. I'm going to get rid of you for the time being. So let's get the parking brake back off and just hold the brakes on. Okay, let's go. Just get my head tracking where I want it to be. Add a bit of power. There she goes. Gear up. Just a little bit of trim. And if we look down there, we can see that our cylinder head temperature on 3 is rising. So I'm just going to pull back. And we just want really 24 and 24 to climb. Keeping an eye on cylinder head number 3. Everything else is looking good. Okay, so let's just do a gentle right turn now. Keeping that climb, watching that temperature, 382. Feels gorgeous, this aeroplane, it really does. It has a very nice fluid feel to it, like I used to feel with the with FSX and P3D. You can almost feel it slipping through the air. You can feel what the air is doing to the aircraft as well. Love that. So just coming down now coming round rather onto our heading to take us over to Lake Como. I think what we'll do is we'll just slip over through that gap there, because that's rather picturesque. And trim, what's our temperature doing? So temperature's coming down a bit there. You can see we're now down to 380. I suspect temperature is high because we were sitting on the ground for a while I was yakking and checking the mags and everything, and run-up was probably slightly longer than we'd normally do, but I just wanted to just have a look at that, and certainly have a look at that mag in a little bit more detail. When we land, we'll do a inspection and just have a look and see if anything is not quite right with that. But that's interesting, and again it highlights what's so wonderful about Accu-sim, in that things aren't always going to be absolutely perfect, and sometimes you need to have a look. If I wasn't making a video, if I wasn't trying to show all these different things, what I really would have done then with the mag behaving like that is to close everything down and just have a look, do an inspection, and just check what was happening. But for the purposes of this video, if something goes wrong, I don't mind, because I almost, it helps to show you what the sim is all about. So let's have a look. Where's the dreaded magenta line? We are going to look at VOR work as well, because I want to show you how the autopilot works with that. Now I should say at this point, this is a pre-release version. It's not far off what the final release is going to be, so there might be some things that are different. One of the things that I do know is that the autopilot behavior in terms of how it tracks is slightly different, so we might see some behavior there that you won't necessarily see on the final version, but still worth checking out, still worth having a look at it. So we're just climbing above 3,000 feet now. I'm just going to lean a little bit manually, and we're going to I think actually, yeah, we'll just level out here. Let's just level out here. We don't want to go too high because we want to have a look at the scenery. This gorgeous Italian scenery. Just trim it now. One of the things that A2A looked at was how turbulence affects the aeroplane. So you can see the aeroplane bobbing around. You can hear. You can see the wind flex there. You see the There you go, tip tank just wobbling a little bit. They've really simulated everything, and this is all part of Accu-sim. This is their work that they've done. They wanted to make it accurate. Scott's been up in his Comanche, the real Comanche, and he has seen how it's behaved. And look, with me waffling there, rather than concentrating on levelling off at 3.5, which is what I wanted to do, we've carried on climbing. So let's just come back on the power a little bit. Don't want to go too high. I want you to see what beautiful Italy has to offer. It really is heaven having an aircraft like this with the realism that it has in this simulator, coupled with this beautiful world. There's no doubt about it, Microsoft Flight Sim has a beautiful world to fly in compared to some of the older simulators. I do hear people, saying, "Well, I don't fly for the eye candy. I fly for the accuracy of the aircraft," and I do understand that, especially if you've only used the default aeroplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator. There is a big difference, but now we have the ability to fly this gorgeous eye candy, if you like, this wonderful scenery, in a really realistic aeroplane. So win-win, certainly nothing to complain about there. So just coming down now, just descending ever so slightly, just so we can have a better look at the scenery over there. That's coming up to Lecco, that's just that built up area that you can see there, just off to the right of the nose. And as you can see, we're kind of loosely following the GPS. This is more about just having a look and having a play with different things rather than following a really strict route. I've reduced the power and the gear warning has gone off there, so I'll just increase it a little bit more. Handling wise, it just is beautiful. I never really flown with yokes before, but I went out and got a fulcrum yoke some time ago, really, in anticipation of this aircraft, and also because I was using it a lot for the Black Square King Air. But the feel of the fulcrum yoke with this Comanche is just gorgeous, really is. That feeling that you have of really smooth, fluid, tight control, especially on approach and landing, because this is a very realistic flight model, and the Comanche has its kind of own behaviours when it comes to landing, coupled with the yoke. It just feels great, and makes it more interesting, makes it a bit more of a challenge. It was actually A2A that got me into taking simming more seriously. Previously I had, and I'm talking some years ago, really only ever flown default aircraft, and didn't spend a huge amount of time flight simming, if I'm honest. Been doing it for years, been doing it since since about 1982. But whilst I enjoyed it, I didn't do a huge amount with it because I never really found anything that was all that realistic. And then I don't know what introduced me to it. I want to say it was a video on the Frugal channel, but something introduced me to A2A, and that was where it all changed. aircraft that felt like aircrafts did when I was doing doing some initial flight training that I did back in the 90s. Something that I could kind of relate to and think, yeah, that approach, that feels like what it used to feel like, or as close as you can get sitting in front of a desk rather than actually getting the full physical forces as Bellagio down there. It made such a huge difference, and I've been in love with A2A ever since. And back in FSX and P3D, I really didn't fly much else. Certainly if you've been with the channel for a long time, you'll know that prior to Microsoft Flight Simulator, really all I was flying was A2A. So I'm so glad to have A2A back in this sim, and I can't wait to see what else they can actually produce, because you just know it's going to be gorgeous. So we're coming back down now. We're going to head back down towards Como. Once we've passed over Como, we'll climb, and then we can have a quick look at leaning using the EDM and also the autopilot features if you've not seen those before. But what a beautiful aeroplane, what an absolute joy to fly. We can have the landing lights off now. Don't need to worry about those. Buffed around a bit now. You can see the wingtip flexing there a little bit. You can hear it. There's all sorts of wonderful sounds that you get with Accu-sim. There's even, I seem to remember seeing on the, I think it was on the preview video that Scott did, when you add fuel to the tip tank when it's on the ground, at some point you'll hear the wing pop as it flexes with the weight. Really is very clever, and I can't emphasize enough. I guess it's something you'll only really feel for yourself once you own your own Comanche here. But just the feeling that this is a real aeroplane that you've got to look after. When I've landed, when I've switched everything off, when I've walked away from it, I'm going to walk back to the same aeroplane. So things like that mag check that we were doing before, where it sounded a bit rough, that's not something that we can just ignore. When I come back to the aeroplane, if I was to land and not inspect, not have a look at it, when I come back to the aeroplane, if there's a problem, that problem's still going to be there. So we certainly need to have a look at that and be professional. Accu-sim forces you to think like a real pilot. That's the best way I can describe it. If you want a really realistic experience of not only flying but operating an aeroplane, then Accu-sim does that for you. If you're new to flight simming and you're looking for a realistic aeroplane to learn to fly in, I would always go Accu-sim. Always go Accu-sim. Right now, if you're thinking about getting into flight sim, if you've not got any flying experience and you want to give it a try, get the Comanche, learn to fly in the Comanche. You can't go wrong. It's actually a very forgiving aeroplane. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to land nicely, but it's actually a very forgiving aeroplane. Getting plenty of buffet round here. I'm running live weather, by the way, so we haven't really got much in the way of a strong wind. It's 4 or 5 knots from 150 at the moment, but we're getting quite a bit of turbulence over here. And again, as I said before, this is something that A2A have modelled quite accurately, based on their experience with the real aeroplane. What a gorgeous day. Imagine actually being able to do this for real. Fly around Lake Como in a wonderful classic GA aeroplane. How wonderful. So just coming over Como there, still in a descent, so got the power down. Okay, let's now do a nice right turn over here, and then we are going to go back to climb power, and we can have a look at some of the other bits and bobs. So climb power, let's go to prop first, so prop up to 24. Now on the power, and we will go up to 24. There we go, and just as I was talking about at the beginning, if we open this and we go to the aircraft sheet, so what did it say here? Climb 24 manifold pressure, 2400 RPM max, and best climb angle VX is 84 miles an hour. So let's do that. We will change our pitch to get to that climb angle. Really is climbing nicely, isn't it? Speed coming down a bit. Let's drop the nose a tad. There we go. Right, let's move you out of the way. So let's go up to 6,000. See, on the GPS we are off course. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to, well, we'll lean first. That's probably the best thing to do. And then we can have a look at the autopilot. So I'm going to stay on this heading. Taking us off course, but that doesn't matter. As I said, this is just a very loose flight plan, just so that we can try some different things. So we'll continue our climb to 6,000. And we see there that we have got a cylinder head temperature warning again. So they are all lighting up. So we just need to come off a little bit now. Just be a little bit careful. Climbing with a bit too much power there. We don't want to over egg the pudding and cause any damage, and we need to pick up a little bit more speed just to help cool everything down. Still climbing slightly. Let's have a look at those temperatures. So 39, yeah, we can see they're coming down already. That's all good. Again, this aeroplane is alive. You have to keep an eye on it. Climbing at full chat there, it wasn't too impressed. It is actually quite a warm day today as well. This is live weather, and of course down towards the Mediterranean at the moment there is a heat wave going on, and a particularly nasty heat wave too. So checking those temperatures, yeah, they're still coming down. Okay. So messing about doing that, I've missed the altitude there, so we have gone over it slightly. So let's just come down. Now, what can we use as a VOR? So we can use Valpenza. So what's the frequency there is 113.35. So just bear with me while I fly the aeroplane. What did I say? 113. 11335. 11335. Transfer. And we'll change that to VOR. So there we go. So let's turn back towards Malpensa. So this isn't like a kind of a very modern autopilot system in that you can just from any position just switch it on to the nav mode. This one you almost have to be pointing in the right direction, almost on the right course already. So I'm just going to line us up loosely with Malpensa, and then I'll find a radial that we are already close to, and we should start seeing that fairly soon. There we go. So I'll just gently turn onto that anyway. There we go. So we, as I say, we almost want to be on that anyway. So let's put the autopilot master on. First of all, it's going to run through some checks. We see all the lights come on. And we've climbed even more because I've been faffing about. Temperatures have come down nicely. Right, I am actually going to do what I said I was going to do in reverse now. I'm actually going to get it onto the autopilot first, and then we can look at the leaning. So at the moment we've got the green light just to say it's ready. So the different modes are ST, which means that we can let's do that now actually. So I'm holding the pitch, but then if I move this knob here I can change the bank angle, and it will hold that bank angle. So effectively you could put it on altitude hold and the bank handle hold, and it'll just fly around in circles. So we have that as an option. Just turning it to the left again, that's fine. Then we have heading hold, which is literally what it says on the tin. You can see it's turning now to try and capture that heading, so it's not following a track, it's just going to turn onto that heading, and that's fine. You know how that works, we don't need to worry about that. So I just want to bring that back to that mode, and we're just going to steer it back on course using the bank angle, just so that we can get almost back onto the radial, because as I said, it's not going to want to intercept that from the kind of angle that we're at the moment. I'll tell you what I will actually do is, let's just turn that round. I just realised I still had that locked on there, didn't I? What was that? 21. So let's have that back there. Undo that, and let's turn the heading. And now I'm going to put it into heading mode. There we go. So now we're in heading mode. I'm just doing a little bit of leaning here as well, because we are climbing a lot higher than I'd originally anticipated, but I want to make sure that I can show you this. So there we go. So we can see that we're about to intercept. So I'm now going to put the autopilot onto low. And we use low to intercept things like VOR radials and heading mode as well. Sorry, not heading mode, VOR radials and GPS courses, because what that does is it gives us, it's not tracking it quite so aggressively as it would do if it was in HD mode. And you can see probably already at that angle it was probably a little bit too steep for it, because it's not really intercepted it, and we've got this very slow right turn, so we're not really on course. So I'm going to take it out of that, I'm going to put it back into heading mode, turn that round, get us back to a position where we're intercepting the radial. Let's Let's come back on the power a little bit. Lean it a little bit more. We can stop climbing now. Now, watching the needles down here, we are starting to intercept. I'm going to almost fly it onto the radial using the heading. There we go, and now I'm going to put it onto low. So it's now going to track the VOR radial, and that will work nicely. Just keeping an eye on it now, watching my height. We're not a million miles from the VOR now, so we are actually going to lose it fairly soon. But you can see what it's doing. It's now doing a slight correction because we overshot it slightly. It's now doing a slight correction to bring us back on course. I have a feeling we might be overhead the VOR before it's actually had a chance to fully get us back on course. But you get the idea. You can see the aircraft is now effectively tracking that VOR and making the necessary corrections. Now, let's do some leaning. So, I'm just going to leave that for as long as I can until we're overhead the VOR, which isn't long at all. Just watching the height. You can see the VOR needle is slowly coming back onto course now. A little bit of turbulence there. We're going to lose that any minute, but you can see what it's doing. There we go. And now that we're coming onto the correct radial, it did a slight right correction there, is it rather, to line everything up. But we are about to go overhead the VOR, so we can come off that now. So what I'm going to do now is switch us back onto heading mode and put us on a reciprocal heading. So boof, 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 there we go, and that's going to come around now, and I'm going to put us onto altitude hold. Now when I press that button, we get a blue light up here. I'm now going to release the pressure on the yoke, and the aircraft is now completely flying itself. Once altitude mode is on, we want to check here. This is telling us what it will do is ask us to adjust the trim if necessary. If it wants a lot of trim, the appropriate light will come on and it will be a fixed tone or a constant tone. If it's just a little bit of trim, it will be a beep, beep, beep. And at the moment we're nicely trimmed out. That's good. That means that human idiot pilot here didn't do such a bad job of trimming it after all. Right, okay, so let's look at this leaning using the EDM. First thing I'm going to do is switch my tanks now. So let's have the left on and then we'll have the right off. Because as we can see, we've burned a fair bit from the right tank now, so it's only correct that the left gets a chance to have part of the fun. So looking at this now, we're going to hit the lean fine button. There we go, Richard Peak. And I'm going to gently start bringing back the mixture. You can see that that's flashing now, so that's telling us that it's keeping an eye on cylinder 4. It's really important just to bring the mixture back ever so slightly. I think it's something like 4 degrees a second is the ideal rate. So just bringing that back, we can see the EGT temperatures going up, which is what we'd expect. You can see down here that the EGT is rising, but I'm looking at this and it's monitoring cylinder 4 because that is the highest temperature. Keep coming back ever so slightly. There we go. It's now reached leanest. So we select that, and now, so Richard Peak, I'm now adding back in, and ideally we want this to be around about 50. I seem to remember reading somewhere. 50 or 60 anyway. I'm going to go 60 actually. I think that's somewhere in between something that I've read previously. This is a good chance to say there are several tutorials, real world tutorials about this aeroplane, this EDM system rather, but also in this particular aeroplane I am sure that you'll see something from Scott on the A2A YouTube channel. There we go. Do you know what? I'm going to go 70. There we go. If you wanted to go lean of peak, you just go the other way. This minus figure means that we are rich of peak. There we go. Just still changing the mixture ever so slightly. Just trying to get to around about 70. Just having a play with it really. That's all good. Right, so where are we? Let's have a look. So now we want to intercept the GPS here. This is where we want to be heading. So I'm now going to just put us into a gentle left turn because we're going to use the autopilot to intercept on the GPS this time. Get that set up. I'm going to take us out of altitude hold mode because we need to start losing some height. So we'll now put ourselves into a bit of a descent. Watching us coming onto the GPS track there. We do need to turn just a little bit more, fella. Keep turning. There we go. So we're tracking GPS, and now I'm going to put us on to low. So we are now using the autopilot to track the GPS, and that's all nicely set up. Quick check of that. GPS here, low, needle, all good, everything's looking fine, and we're in a descent. So we are quite high up here for where we're going to be flying into, which is Lugano Airport. Lugano is actually in Switzerland. That's how close we are to the border here. But we are quite high. But at least that's given us an opportunity to have a play with different things. You've now seen how the autopilot works. There's nothing really much more I can show you on that. And we're just in a nice position here where we're in a gentle descent and we are tracking the GPS, and we're nice and lean, and we're in this beautiful aeroplane, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now. Just descending through a little bit of cloud now. It's reminded me actually, I had my first sim experience of carburetor icing in the Comanche, and the video is even on the channel, although it's very, very old. I was horsing around in it not long after I'd got it, and did a very silly kind of cavalier descent through some cloud on a day that wasn't particularly warm, and couldn't understand why my engine wasn't working, and I landed, and then I had a look at everything when I landed, went into the maintenance hangar, and I realised I'd had carburetor icing. Put the carb heat on, and sure enough got the power back. So you know, it's it just goes to show you can't mess around with Accu-sim. It is going to bite you on the arse. Right, what's the QNH at Lugano? It is 1017, which is fine because that's kind of what we've already got set up. So happy with that. Where is the wind? 177 at 3 knots, so we're not going to be doing an ILS approach. We're going to come in and have a look, but as you can see we are quite high. Anyway, you've seen the autopilot there. I'm going to come out of autopilot now and hand fly this thing, because at the end of the day that's kind of where the joy in it is. It's hand flying. So autopilot, disconnect, and thank you, Mr. Autopilot, I have control. So let's come down. Going to slightly, as we are, actually no, we're still quite high, so I don't need to worry about richening the mixture there. Trying to talk and think at the same time, and the words came out funny. So let's just come round here, bring us around nicely. Get rid of that goddamn awful menu strip at the top. That's one of the reasons I love flow. So I'm going to use this space over here to descend, keeping an eye on everything. Really is lovely flying in scenery like this, no doubt about it. Our airport is, if I just quickly bring the wing over, our airport is down there it is. And I seem to remember reading somewhere that this is one of the airports that got updated when Asobo did a scenery update, so it should be quite pretty. I've not been here, well, I don't remember coming here in the sim. So looking at the lumpy bumpy stuff here, because we don't want to bang into anything, looking for safe areas to descend and also give us an opportunity to have a nice nice approach. We all right in the back there? Look at them. They've never been so happy flying in an aeroplane like this. Right. Let's get the checklist up. Checklists. We've been very lazy with these. We haven't even looked at climb cruise yet. Approach. So the autopilot is off. Fuel pump is on. Fuel selected desired tank. I'm going to keep it on the fullest, which is left. And that's where we are now. Watch out for the lumpy bumpy stuff. Fuel levels, check. Everything's good there. Mixture, we're still fairly high, so I'm not going to put that to rich just yet. And the same with the prop. We're not quite close enough to start messing about doing that, but we will do that as we get a bit closer on the approach. So again, just bringing around. We're still quite high. Gorgeous scenery, isn't it? I'm going to, I think, looking at the map, what I'm actually going to do is take us over that hill. Let's get rid of this for the moment. We'll go over that ridge and then fly down that way, I think. There's probably a slightly more natural approach for us. Let's have some power back on. Just to take us over the top. Actually, we'll just go to the left of this dome piece of mountain there. I think you know, it's just so important, the whole immersion thing with flight simming. It's, after all, what we're all trying to do is be as immersed as we can to make it realistic as we can, and that's exactly what this aeroplane does.
500.
Right, so I kind of want to get down into that valley there to follow that road, so let's cut the power now. We can start losing some height. Really getting bounced around a bit in the mountains here, as you can see. Don't cut the power too much. Look at that beautiful valley. Lose some height here, just side slipping ever so slightly, just to lose some more height into the valley. There we go, and then we can kind of follow this road, keep the descent in. Getting buffeted around rather a lot. See the airport just over there, still quite high. Wow, really getting some turbulence over here. Right, let's mixture rich now. Let's have a look back on the checklist. Prop fully forward. Just really keeping the throttle as low as I can, because I want to lose some height, but I don't want to pick up too much speed here. So I'm just going to come over here. Let's lose the tablet. Now, losing all that height, we've picked up a ridiculous amount of speed, so we need to lose some of that. So let's just come around this way. Just do some turns. Guys in the back thinking, my God, what are you trying to do to us? There we go, losing some speed now. Let's drop the gear now that we're at the magic point. And we have down and locked. Still quite high. Bring the power back a bit more. One notch of flap. Let's start concentrating.
$500.
So watch that. Full flap. And we're down. I often find flying an approach is a bit like flying. Let's lose the flap now. Flying formation. It's almost like a form of meditation. As much as you have to concentrate, it's quite relaxing as well. Yeah, it's not a bad airport, this, for a default one. Looks quite nice, actually. So there you go. For me, landing is always one of the more pleasurable parts of flying. It's also one of the trickiest, and I can't tell you enough how much fun it is landing in this aeroplane. Didn't have our landing lights on there. Tut tut. That's because we should have followed the proper checklist. Okay, let's come over here. Always find, I guess like real world aviation as well, there's always something to learn. There's always that kick in the backside for not doing something, like not having the landing lights on there. Follow a checklist and you won't do silly things like that. I got rid of the checklist because I was too busy trying to make sure that I was losing speed and going to be in a position to make a decent approach. You know, flying is so much about pre-planning and thinking things through and making sure you aren't about to screw things up royally by not doing some proper forward thought and preparation. There we go. Right, let's have the parking brake on. And let's get this out because I'm going to do this properly. So after landing, the flaps are up, the strobes are off. Should have done that when we came off the runway. Fuel pump off. Mixture going to lean for ground ops here anyway. And trim we will put back to neutral. Just ready for next time. There we go. Okay, shut down. Parking brake set, done that. Radio's off. Take you all the way, there we go. And then avionics off. Transponder is off because it's part of that. Avionics master we've done. And master switch off. Throttle closed. Mixture idle cut off. Magneto's off. And there we go, we are down. We can open the door. Oh, let's do the latch. Let the fresh air in. And there you have it. So, let's now look at maintenance, because I'm interested to see if there is anything that is picked up. So that's looking okay. Nothing to look at there. Let's have a look in engine. No, everything's fine there. Let's have a look at airframe, just have a quick look there. Everything's fine there. So yeah, I think really the engine with the mags, it could just be a little bit of fouling maybe, I don't know. I don't think so, that wouldn't make any sense. I'm not an engineer, but I don't think we would have seen that there. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to clean the spark plugs just to be sure, so that that's all done. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that flight. This is a gorgeous aeroplane. I can't recommend it highly enough. Hands down the best GA aeroplane I have flown in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm just so glad to see A2A is back in Microsoft Flight Simulator with this new aeroplane, and cannot wait to see what they do next. And I just hope you enjoy this as much as I do. If you get it, leave the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what kind of flying you've done with it, what you thought of the of flying approaches and that sort of thing. Really interested to see what you think. And of course, if you aren't already, head over to the A2A forums, also their Discord, and also make sure you check out the superb tutorials that I just know they're going to be banging out, and you will learn so much from those. I know I certainly will. I'm no master of this aeroplane at all, as you've probably guessed, and I know that I'm going to get some really useful things from those videos. So anyway, look forward to seeing you on the channel again soon, and thanks for coming along for the flight. Take care now. Bye bye.